or click their icon at DewittDailyNews.com.
Your own home without the maintenance. If you're 55 or better, a beautiful Liberty Village villa could be yours. This is Erin, and I invite you to come take a tour of our move-in ready villa. Click the Liberty Village icon at DewittDailyNews.com.
Simply the finest.
DewittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DewittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
You and your loved one will love living here at Eagle Ridge Supportive Living Indicator. Marketing Director Carla Thomas here with some comments from one of our happy residents.
I am well taken care of. And what hit me big, I don't have to cook and wash my dishes and do my laundry for me. So I was hooked.
Eagle Ridge Indicator is affordable to everyone. Call me, Carla Thomas, for a tour at 217-872-1282. That's 217-872-1282 and start enjoying supportive living.
Today's morning show can be heard by downloading the free WHOW mobile app in your favorite store.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in this segment of the morning show is Mr. Curt Homann. He is the executive director of the Dewey County Development Council. Good morning, Curt.
Good morning to you, Seth.
How are you today?
I'm good. Good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming in and talking with us. And with that, let's dive into, Curt. Right off the bat, the DCDC board has approved small business grants. Tell us about these. What's going on here?
We have, and really excited about this. I think this is one of our premier programs that we have offered the last few years. So they approved $10,000 total in small business grants for Dewitt County businesses. So we're going to officially open up that application process next week. And for August, which I don't have that date yet, but sometime in August we'll award those funds.
Sure. So tell us a little bit more about the specifics of this. Who can apply? I mean, small business is pretty broad. Who can apply? What do they need to do? How much can they apply for? How about some of those things?
Absolutely. So we any Dewey County business can apply regardless of size. The grant itself we consider to be a small grant with $10,000. So we could award theoretically the full $10,000 to one recipient. What typically happens is those awards get broken up into multiple. So we may have 2, 3, 4, 5 recipients in varying amounts. Ideally, it needs to be the business that applies needs to be beyond the idea stage of the business. So ultimately, an existing business or a business that's really ready to go. If they haven't opened their doors yet, they really are ready to open their doors. They've got place located, those types of things. So what we want to avoid is, hey, I'd really, I've always considered doing this. I'd like to try this business. If I get some money, that'll give me some seed money. We really want that business to be a little further along than just the idea stage.
Yeah, and there's opportunities for seed money elsewhere, basically.
There is, absolutely. And anyone that's in that situation, please reach out to me because we could help find, hopefully we could help find some of those dollars for them. But the small business grant, typically it goes, what we like to see is it goes to maybe a piece of equipment or, something that's going to increase revenues for that business. Again, as with many of the other grants in the past, it doesn't go for payroll expense. It doesn't go for insurance expense or month to month. It really needs to be a specific project that will hopefully, benefit that business, benefit the community and, maybe the county and revenue dollars, the sales tax dollars, those types of things.
Sure. When it comes to the application of this grant, how much information do you want from them? What should it look like? What should they present to you?
So the best thing I would advise those businesses, and the application itself is pretty easy. If it's not on our site, it'll be up there next week. So make sure you get to our website. But really what we want to know is what they're going to use that money for, how it's going to benefit their business. If it is let's say the equipment is a $10,000 piece of equipment. If they would not get the full grant, the other thing we like to see is how will they fund the balance of that that item.
Okay.
We've had businesses that have applied that their project is $200,000 as an example. So we really, it's important for us to know how that will work.
Yeah, right.
Because we don't want to say, hey, here's $1,500. That gets absorbed into a $200,000 project pretty easily. So that's really not the ideal situation. But the small piece of equipment that a business can say, hey, we're gonna buy this equipment. This is gonna be an additional service to people in the county or outside the county. It's gonna bring in increased revenue. We have a little bit of funding outside of this if we don't get the full amount, and those types of things.
Now, am I remembering, is this the grant cycle that benefited, if I'm remembering right, there was a couple of, like, there was the barber shop, there was a hairstylist shop, trying to remember, am I remembering that right? Is this those grants that we talked to those folks about?
It is. So we have two separate grant programs. One, we partner with First National Bank, and those are the Rev grants. These are direct from DCDC.
I think the Rev grants is what I'm thinking
it
of.
may be, but they run very, very similar. So I always have to look back and think about which grant came from what source.
Sure.
But they run identically. So, or almost identically. So the application process, those get sent to me at DCDC. We go through those and we will pick, the top applications, and those folks will come in and do a short presentation in front of a panel of judges.
Right.
And those judges will make the decision later that day as to the distribution of the grant awards.
Sure.
So it really is a two-part process. And step one is to get through the first round, which is all on paper, and then step two is to be able to come in and make a pitch for why your business needs that money or would use that money well.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's where I wanted to go next. Again, our guest in studio this morning is Mr. Curt Holman, Executive Director of the Dewey County Development Council. So applications submitted, they come to you and make that presentation. What is that process like in terms of them coming to you? And then what happens after that? When you've got all the applications, what's the panel look like? What's the decision-making process look like? Walk us through some of those steps.
So sure. So the first the first part of the paper application, I would encourage people that are going to apply to be as detailed as possible on there. Sometimes it might be an easy answer to a question, but the more details, the better chances of getting selected for the final round. But we have many of the folks are on the DCDC board that are our judges, and the presentations are typically in one afternoon. So we schedule them, 5 or 6 presentations in one afternoon. They're about a 30-minute block of time.
Okay.
About 20 minutes of presentation, about 10 minutes of questions from our group. They score them, they weigh them all together, and at the end of the day, they break down the funds. And again, if depending on how many apply, depending on how well those presentations go, is the basis for where those monies do go.
Gotcha.
So,
now, so let's say a business applies for, I don't know, you've got like 12 businesses that apply, and some are ranging from anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000. Will you say, if they, like, somebody wants a higher amount, will you say, well, we can't give you all that amount, we'll give you this much? Is that like a stipulation in this process?
So and that's many times that's what happens. We actually, during COVID, we actually fully funded there
was like 3, right?
There's at least 3 or 4. And I think we awarded around $23,000, which we really hadn't planned to do, but it was really a time where businesses needed those funds, and I think it made an important impact. Our budget won't allow that this year. I can say that. But again, if someone comes in with a $10,000 project request, the important thing to do is to know that you may not get all of that funded. And if you don't get all of that funded, it's important for us to know, is that project still going to go forward? And if so, do you have the funds in place to get that project to go forward?
Well, and it sounds like you really want detail so that your investment is going to be fruitful, if you will. That's kind of the theme I'm picking up here. Is that fair to say?
It absolutely, yeah, it absolutely is. So if ideally, if with the hair place as an example, adding an additional chair in a
Hair salon.
in a hair salon brings in an additional employee in that business.
That's a job.
Which is a job, maybe doubles the amount of hair being done. So it provides additional services to the county. That local job, whether that person is local or not, they're going to have lunch here. They're going to buy gas here. They're going to do other things. So that's going to spur economic activity in other ways. So ideally that's the preferred result. And it doesn't have to be a hair salon. Obviously it can be a piece of equipment. It could be an ice cream machine. It could be a new printer. It could be something that it increases the business's ability to sell more product.
Yeah, for sure. So anything on this grant opportunity, Curt, that I didn't mention you want to put out there for us today?
No, so I do want to point out it is to all DeWitt County businesses, so it's certainly not specific to Clinton only. So I really want to challenge businesses that are looking at needing or had some plans to do something in the near future, that this is a great opportunity to apply. We like to get a variety of different applications. And so I find it, this is free money. There's no payback on it at all. So this is an absolute grant. And for those that are worried about, I've got to speak in front of somebody, don't be. We're not judging you on your speaking ability.
Right.
We just want to know the details of the project.
Yep, for sure. Again, how do folks apply? When is the deadline? When will the process begin after that deadline? How about those details?
So
one more time?
The best thing to do is check out our website next week. And but Facebook as well, DeWitt County Development Council's Facebook page will direct you to that website and the application process. But again, I'm going to open that up some point next week. So by the end of next week, you'll be able to find all the details for sure.
All right, very good, Curt. Let's take a time out here. Come back with some more. Again, Curt Homann, Executive Director of the Dewey County Development Council, is my guest in studio for the morning. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. More to come on the WHOW Morning Show.
Connected.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn slightly higher, beans and wheat double-digit lower. July corn 7.32 and a quarter up 2. September corn up 1 and a quarter 7.06. December new crop up 1 and a quarter 6.95 and a half. July beans 17.10 and a quarter down 19. August beans down 15 and 3/4, 16.43. November new crop 15.27 and a quarter down 14 and a half. July wheat 10.46 and 3/4 down 11 and a half. September wheat down 12 and a half, 10.57 and a quarter. July bean meal 417.70 up 2.80. July bean oil 80.58 down 86 cents. In the livestock market, June live cattle 133.27 down 35 cents. August feeders up 62 cents, 173.57. June lean hogs 110.37 up 32 cents. In the energy market, August Brent crude oil 118.67. That's up $1.06. I'm Jim Taylor for the RFD Radio Network.
Here's a supply chain update from your Clinton Save-A-Lot. Owner Dave Jackson here to let you know that despite our best efforts, many times we're seeing specific items simply disappear off of our store shelves. Our suppliers are halting production of slower items to concentrate on the higher volume products. Keeping our shelves appearing full is becoming more difficult, but you have my personal guarantee we are pulling out all of the stops to keep the freshest meat and produce and the items you buy every day stocked and on our shelves. Your Clinton Save-A-Lot appreciates your business, and we hope to see you soon.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Why would you wander around a warehouse store looking for paint when you could just swing by your neighborhood Ace? In addition to Ace's award-winning service, we have top-rated paint brands. Plus, our color matching technology allows us to match any color. So stop wandering and start painting. Head to your neighborhood Ace today.
This is Brad from Gibson Ace Hardware in Clinton, Illinois. Stop in to see us, the helpful place at 114 North Madison Street, Clinton.
Tell Amazon Alexa, play WHOW Radio to hear the morning show and all our programming right there on your Amazon Echo.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio is Curt Homann, Executive Director of the Dewitt County Development Council. And Curt, we're going to talk some fundraising and those sorts of things for DCDC. Remind us, DCDC, how it's funded, what some of your revenue sources are. Give us the details on how you form your budgets.
Sure. So when DCDC was originally funded, we were funded through DeWitt County, the city of Clinton, the city of Farmer City, actually the Clinton Chamber, the Farmer City Chamber, all kicked in some funds. And over the years, those have that's all changed a bit. Farmer City and Clinton, we've dropped out of their budget in recent years. The county, we've dropped out of their budget the last couple years. I do believe that the county, we will be added back to their budget in terms of funding.
I think they want to support you.
Absolutely.
That's the
I
vibe
think so
get.
too. Yes. And but the reality of it is our budget this year, we're operating at a negative budget, and there's an awful lot of projects that I see that we could be doing, and we realistically just don't have the funds.
Okay.
So a couple things. Our website needs to be revamped a bit. We need to be able to add more county statistics, some county tourism. We're not a tourist organization. However, tourism as a business is really important to DeWitt County, and we need to add some more of those features on there. So we need to get more stats and statistics. I could do some of those things. It would take a lot of my time because I'm not an expert in web development, but there are people that are. So, that project could be done for about $5,000.
Okay.
Some of our marketing of the county and potential business sites and those types of things, realistically, we ought to have about $10,000 a year in our budget for that. And we don't, it's really all my personal time resources that are tied up in those things.
Yeah.
And with digital media and those types of things, we really ought to be able to have a better reach. So, part of the appeal, I guess, this morning is, we are a non-for-profit organization, and there are certainly businesses out in our communities that maybe fund some of those projects. And if any are listening today and hear that and say, yeah, we'd really like to help, I'd really love for them to reach out. So again, I think we're running about 30 grand in the negative this year.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's a significant number.
Yeah. Well, and you talk about your role with DCDC. I mean, you're the only part-time employee that they have, the only employee, and it's a part-time role. So it's not like there's a lot of overhead with DCDC, if you will.
There isn't. And we're thankful for the DeWitt County Farm Bureau. They give us free office space, so then that means we don't have a utility bill. I actually personally donate our phone cost, out of my pocket. So we keep our expenses low. Overhead is low. It's really everything that we do, we want to gear towards promoting DeWitt County and promoting DeWitt County businesses.
Yeah.
So,
well, and let's say, Curt, for DCDC, and I'm sure you're familiar with maybe this sentiment a little bit. There's people out there that watch DCDC for many years, and maybe they were active, but perhaps they thought the efforts were misguided, or maybe they watched a time where DCDC just wasn't active. And then I know when David Torbert was really involved with DCDC, he would come out and talk about all the things they were doing. Maybe they're just not sure if they're ready to jump in and support DCDC at this point. Why would you tell them that it's important for them to support you at this time?
Well, I think, I think the idea of economic development, for any county is an important concept. And you can see that, everything that we do snowballs. As an example, the grants, the $10,000 in grants that we give, while those will cost DCDC $10,000 out of our pocket, the benefit to the county will be much bigger than $10,000 with employees and with additional sales and those types of things. I'm not one to look at the past too much, and for those that maybe felt that way, I would say, hey, I understand. I always felt like we were, I've been part of DCDC a long time, and I always felt like we were providing a benefit even in the years we weren't as active. I can say that out there, certainly. But at this point, moving forward, we're 100% dedicated and committed to DCDC and its purpose and keeping things moving forward. And if anyone still has any of those concerns, I'd be glad. I mean, it's important that we sit down one-on-one and discuss those.
I was just going to say, I feel like if there is that person out there listening that's in that, that has that mindset about DCDC, I would encourage them to sit down with you and talk to you about what your vision is for DCDC and the things that you have planned and the things you're working on, because there's so much more that you're doing that we don't get to talk about in this 15 or 20 minutes once a month on a Friday. And I know you've told me so many things that just blow me away about what you're doing. So I would encourage those people to reach out to you and find out from you what you're doing, and on a daily and monthly or weekly and monthly basis as well. So
and I could literally work 100 hours a week. I mean, I physically can't do that, but realistically, DCDC, from some of the projects and the things we have going on, I could spend 100 hours a week on a consistent basis, promoting economic development in Dewitt County.
Sure. What would you tell them the benefit of what DCDC does, how that would be, like if they contributed to you, how that would benefit their business or that individual? How about that?
Yeah. So depending on they can take as big or as small a role as they want to, but if it's purely a financial role, they could have a seat on our board if they wanted to. Certainly they could help make month-to-month or day-to-day decisions from that perspective. From the minimum amount of perspective, they get a tax deduction for doing it or a tax write-off for that contribution. And again, I feel like what we're doing directly supports DeWitt County businesses already, and it may be hard for a business to see that. But when we're promoting jobs, we're promoting business, ultimately that's good for all
right,
for all business. So yeah. So indirectly it is there.
Sure.
But we're glad to promote that business in any way that's certainly a big contributor or a small contributor.
Very good. Well, Curt, I'll tell you what, let's wrap up with this. Of course, inflation hitting everybody right now. And your word of encouragement today is shop local, keep dollars you're spending local. Give us that message real fast.
Absolutely. Gas prices are incredibly high. I know it's been tough on people's budgets. Take the time to find out what's going on in DeWitt County. Shop local. Find some local resources, entertainment resources, those types of things. And just always encourage supporting DCDC, DeWitt County businesses in those regards. But it's easy to do when prices are high to stay home, but maybe find a local business because they're feeling the pinch too with all those costs.
Sure.
So,
Curt, how do folks learn more about all things DeWitt County Development Council?
Go to our Facebook page, pretty easy method, or website is dcdc-illinois.net. Send me an email, info@dcdc-illinois.net.
Okay.
Reach out in any way.
All right, Curt, it was good to talk to you, sir. Thanks for coming out this morning. Curt Homann, Executive Director of the DeWitt County Development Council, our guest in studio. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton.